Overworked members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. So let me tell you what the bill order is going to be. First bill will be House Bill 303, Delegate Wells. Following that will be House Bill 710, Delegate Bagnall. House Bill 835, Cecil County Delegation. House Bill 1028, Delegate Ampry. House Bill 1084, Delegate Adams. 1109, Prince George's County Delegation. House Bill 1127, Harford County Delegation. House Bill 1177, Calvert County Delegation. House Bill 1178, again, Calvert County Delegation. And then House Bill 1183, Calvert County Delegation. Following that, House Bill 1179, Delegate Forbes. And the final bill of the afternoon will be House Bill 1194, Delegates Wyville and Valentine. And after that, we will take a brief break and we will go into our voting session. So, Delegate Wells, welcome back.
Yay.
Always great to see you.
Always great to see you all. Oh, two times in 1 week.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. Chair Barve, Vice Chair, and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. I am Delegate Melissa Wells, and I'm here to present House Bill 303, Air Conditioning and Rental Units. House Bill 303 would require air conditioning for renters in summer months. Specifically, it's intended to protect very young children and older adults from extreme heat. These are the groups most at risk from heat-related illnesses and deaths. About 51% of Baltimore households rent their homes. In the summer, when temperatures rise to dangerous levels, there's no guarantee they'll have air conditioning to protect them. In the winter, if the heat goes out, landlords must quickly get it fixed. It's an essential service under Maryland law. If they don't, renters can submit a complaint for a code violation or file for rent escrow in court to encourage repairs. In the summer, landlords might provide air conditioning by choice, but they don't have a legal obligation as with heat in the winter. Maryland's rent escrow law specifically excludes lack of air conditioning as a dangerous condition renters can cite in a rent escrow complaint. This doesn't make sense. Summer heat is extremely dangerous, particularly for young children, older adults, and those with underlying health conditions. Climate change will only make the problem worse with more frequent and more intense heat waves to come. It's even worse in urban environments. Hard surfaces and the lack of tree cover means all the heat gets absorbed during the day, then radiates back out at night, and there's simply no escape. And the longer extreme heat lasts, the more likely it is to cause health emergencies. This bill is intended to protect some of the most vulnerable renters from dangerous heat. It requires air conditioning when someone in the household is 3 years or old or younger, or 65 and older. It's based on language from Montgomery and Prince George's counties, which already require air conditioning and housing for all renters during summer months. It's common sense, tried and true legislation that could help prevent immeasurable suffering and death. So for these reasons, we ask for your support for House Bill 303. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go through all the people who are pure favorable, and then we will go to questions. So the next person is Justin Lowenthal.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time this afternoon. My name is Justin Lowenthal. I grew up in Calvert County to a mother who worked for many years as an emergency room nurse and a father who's a primary care physician specializing in geriatrics. I currently live in Baltimore. I've been there for the last 10 years studying for both my medical degree and PhD at Johns Hopkins, both of which I hope to receive in a few short weeks. I'm speaking today representing friends and colleagues at Doctors for America, a national organization with nearly 1,000 members in Maryland committed to policies that help the patients that we care for. For this reason, we support HB 303. As a senior medical student in Baltimore, I have met elderly patients in the emergency room and the intensive care units who are confused, breathing rapidly, skin hot and dry to the touch, with temperatures well over 105 degrees Fahrenheit, near death from heat stroke after having been found unresponsive inside their homes during the summer. I've also taken care of patients on the neurology unit, covered in cooling blankets, whose brains have begun to swell because of exposure to heat. And I've met babies recovering from becoming overheated in their cribs, learning that their rented apartment did not have air conditioning, and living in poverty, the parents were unable to purchase a unit of their own. Those with chronic kidney disease, heart disease, genetic abnormalities, vascular disease, and clotting disorders are even more susceptible to these effects. Children with asthma who are already susceptible to unhealthy and stagnant air in their homes have these symptoms worsened by the heat. And our emergency response systems, healthcare systems, are strained during the summer months by the need for more welfare checks, ambulance transports, and hospital beds devoted to patients exposed to extreme heat in their homes. With some 51% of Baltimore households renting their homes, and with climate change worsening the urban heat island effect for the city, far too many people have no guarantee that their homes will protect them from hazardous heat. If enacted, HB 303 would protect some of my most vulnerable patients who rent their homes in the city. For this reason, I urge a favorable report.
Thank you very much. Let's turn to a virtual witness, Albert Turner with Renters United Maryland. Albert, are you with us? Nope. No Albert. Okay. Michael Donnelly.
Yes. Honorable Chair Barve, Vice Chair Stein, and members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Michael Donnelly, and I'm from Economic Action Maryland. We're a nonprofit organization that works statewide to advance economic justice and equity through direct service, research, education, and advocacy. I'm here today in support of House Bill 303. So, as many of you might know from previous hearings, my normal work is answering questions on the phone from landlords and tenants. And every single summer, I start getting calls when it gets really hot because renters, either their AC goes out or it was just never there in the first place. And callers are usually really confused and dismayed to realize that while heat is required in the winter, AC is not in the summer. Because, the rent escrow law, it has a rebuttable presumption against a lack of air conditioning being, a serious threat to life and safety. And these calls are far worse when it's older adults, people with underlying conditions that feel really helpless to protect themselves from the extreme heat. And so, at its core, this legislation is a public health measure because, as has been stated, extreme heat can be very dangerous and deadly, particularly for those groups targeted by this legislation, older adults and younger children. And I want to say that this is pretty, tailored legislation. We're focusing on older adults, 65 and older, 3 years or younger, and, the cooling level is required to be 80 degrees, 3 feet from the floor, which to a lot of us used to air conditioning, even that's sort of like uncomfortable, but at the very least it'll protect people a lot more from death and suffering. So this is also based on existing broader legislation in Montgomery County, and, if this is enacted, it'll do a lot to protect the people I speak with on the phone and, as stated, prevent misery and death. So, for these reasons, among others, I respectfully urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, questions. Before I recognize a question, is this, Melissa, is this a Baltimore City or a statewide bill?
Baltimore City.
Okay, well, so I have to ask the obvious question. Why doesn't the city of Baltimore just enact a air conditioning statute like Montgomery and Prince George's?
I believe it has to be enabled at the state level, if I'm not mistaken. It's not that they can just do it on their own, but,
We'll look into that.
okay.
Okay. Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill. Delegate Wells, I just want to give you a chance to respond to the MMH and some of the other opposition testimony concerned. They essentially say that, well, if to install an entire air conditioning system in a building is extremely expensive. I think they say it's like one recent installation, one person, this may be on the high side, but it costs $15,000 per unit in a property with 219 units. So that's obviously a lot. That's probably on the high end. I would imagine probably less in some other cases. And then they say that while window units would be cheaper to install, that they don't think that they would essentially they wouldn't sufficiently cool the space to be compatible with the bill. So I guess my question to y'all is, do you intend, would you be happy if the bill, if landlords try to comply with the bill with window units, or to amend the bill to make it clear that if they installed a window unit, then they would have a safe harbor provision under the bill?
So, I may have lost you a little bit. I think, so your question is, you're asking if I'd be okay with window units
Yeah, like
So-
being enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, window units would be fine because I know that there's probably, although there is a cost with window units, central, changing over
Yeah.
a system to central AC would be much more costly. So we're open to window units. I think in my mind, that was an option that I was already assuming would be
Okay.
utilized because it would be more cost efficient.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Might this make sense as a statewide bill?
If that's the will of the body,
Okay. Thank you.
if that's the will of the body.
Let me ask another question. In one of the older neighborhoods in my district, a neighborhood where the houses were built after World War II, a lot of the houses had a window unit in the bedroom, but not in the rest of the, house. So, since we asked the question about window units, what if the window unit only cooled one room in the house? Would that be acceptable?
Yes, I believe in the legislation, it states that at least one area needs to be cool, like you need to be able to cool at least one area. I'll double check to
Okay.
specify, but we understand that, like I've lived in homes where it's two-story home and they had window units and they only had it in the living room
And
and then
bedroom.
in one bedroom, but
Yeah.
not all rooms had it.
Okay. Any other questions for the sponsor and these witnesses? Let me call up, one witness is favorable with amendments, Wesley Schrum. Come on up. Welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Wesley Schrum, and I'm a law student at the University of Maryland School of Law's Public Health Clinic, testifying today in favor of House Bill 303 with amendments. I'll be discussing 3 topics today. First, the rising temperatures in Baltimore City. Second, Maryland's warranty of habitability. And finally, I'll be proposing an amendment to broaden the scope of this bill.
You only have 2 minutes, so you might want to go straight to the amendment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to be brief. To my first point, the rising temperatures in Baltimore City are due to the city becoming a heat island effect, and this has a substantial effect on members of our society. We see this infecting those in the vulnerable age groups as well as any individual, regardless of age, who may have pre-existing conditions such as a heart condition or asthma, to name a few. We see that Maryland's warranty of habitability restricts tenants from obtaining relief or obtaining air conditioning. Now, specifically, the warranty requires anyone to remedy a defect with serious and substantial threat to health, life, or safety. However, this presumption burdens tenants and restricts their ability to obtain this air conditioning. So when bringing a case, this presumption makes it almost impossible for tenants to obtain relief. Now, to my third point, the amendment on this bill. Mr. Chairman, we're requesting that this bill be amended to apply to all tenants, regardless of age, so that everyone can have access to a safe and healthy living condition, those in the vulnerable age groups, as well as those who may have pre-existing conditions, regardless of their age. Additionally, by amending this bill, we see that it eliminates the possibility of landlords discriminating against those who are caring for a child 3 years of age or younger, or are themselves 65 years of age or older. With that, we respectfully request that this committee amend this bill and issue a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for this witness? Okay, no questions. Let's go to the opponents of the bill, and they are Kathy Howard, Lauren Graziano, and Lauren Graziano. Two people against, and Lauren, I think, is virtual, but we'll go to Kathy Howard first, if she is here. She's virtual also? Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, Kathy, you're on, if you're there. Is she there?
I am here. Thank you very much, except I'm still muted, I think.
We can hear you, we just can't see you.
Okay,
Now we
there
can do
go.
both. Okay.
I'm not quite as cool with this, the video stuff, but anyway.
You're doing fine.
All right, well, we are opposed to this bill at the moment, although if you are inclined to Primarily because there are a lot of 1960, 1970 apartments particularly garden apartments in Baltimore City. And many of them do not have air conditioning, or if they do, like regional management, the people that I represent, they do that through what they call a sleeve system. It's not, they cannot do a window air conditioner because they were built with sliding windows and things along those lines that will not accommodate an air conditioner. So they built it with a slide into the room from the outside through the brickwork. But it would be very, very expensive for some people to have to adjust that system. I'm very glad to hear that window air conditioners are on the sponsors' good list, and that would be a big help to folks that are doing managing those larger townhouses. The larger apartment complexes. We also have some concerns about making sure that as in many code places in the code that have temperature regulations for heating, it's got to be so many degrees when it's so many degrees outside. We think that we should have those kinds of standards in this bill for air conditioning related to the outside air temperature. And that's...
Is that it?
That's got to say.
Okay. So to summarize, you're not thrilled, but you might be able to live with window units.
Yes.
Okay. Lauren Graziano. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I woke up feeling a little under the weather this morning. I was supposed to be with you, but that's why I'm safely here and not there. I will expand a little bit on what my colleague Kathy Howard has already shared. Right now, we are opposed to the bill as it stands, and I think we'd also offer that the law at present and the rent escrow statute provides a remedy to address folks who do have a legitimate health or safety concern and a way to compel their landlord to provide them air conditioning to cure that health or safety concern. There is a rebuttable presumption against air conditioning. I don't know what that is a vestige of. There's probably room to tweak that statute, but that does exist. As for our other concerns, and I'm really encouraged by the discussion that I've heard already so far, Delegate Stewart, to your point, I think we would be amenable to language to the effect that says the window units are intended to cool the space that they serve, or something to that effect, because the current language of the bill requires that every habitable space in the unit be cooled to at least 80 degrees. And it's not difficult to imagine a situation where you have a layout of an apartment unit where, for instance, the kitchen maybe doesn't have windows, and if someone's in there cooking with the stove or the oven, a window unit in the living room may not be sufficiently cooling that kitchen, just as a for instance. So I'm glad that there sounds like there's room to potentially work on this and work through some language. I will conclude there and take any questions. Thank you.
Before I go to questions, Lauren, is that a picture of Jimi Hendrix behind you?
That is a vinyl record of Jimi Hendrix that is part of my vinyl collection, yes.
All right. Okay, I can hear that opening riff from all along the Watchtower.
It's a classic.
Delegate Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I pushed my button too late to ask the question of the first panel, but I'll ask it in a way that I think I can get an answer from the second panel. So in current housing that doesn't have AC and is not provided even as a window unit, is the tenant prohibited from putting in their own window unit?
That might be a question better suited for Kathy, but my instinct says no, unless it was expressly in the lease or something. But Kathy, do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I mean, I think that, sorry about that, there's a siren going right there.
We can hear you.
Yeah, good, that's helpful. Generally speaking, unless it is, if they buy their own window unit, they should be able to use it in their property, as long, the one caveat to that is it would only be, I would think it would generally only be prohibited if there is some problem with the electrical service that is feeding the house. If it is, you know, if it is not the kind of service that can sustain that, or that you don't have the proper receptacles for them, so that they don't create a fire hazard. That would be, I think, the only caveat to that would make it a lease violation to not be able to have air conditioning.
Thank you, Ms. Howard, and I guess the follow-up question is, would there ever be a lease that would prohibit a tenant from using a window unit unless a landlord provided it?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that one of the problems that you have with window units, if you're going to put them in a window unit, they can do a lot of damage. And it also depends on whether or not your window type is going to be able to accommodate those. Like I was saying in my original testimony, we have slider windows that are horizontal sliders, and
Right.
they will not accommodate a heavy window unit style air conditioner. That's why we have the window sleeve concept. So those are the kinds of things that might be something in the lease that would be prohibited depending upon those situations.
And then my last question is,
Well,
why
yeah,
don't,
actually, let me just
Sorry.
let me just say something here. I feel compelled to share an embarrassing story from my life. My wife and I owned a house in Annapolis, and she asked me to put in a window unit on the 3rd floor, and somehow it fell and was trapped on the roof, a 2nd floor roof of the office, and there it sat. And one day we had Talmadge Branch, Delegate Branch, over for dinner, and we showed him around the house, and he looked out that window and said, "Kumar, what's that air conditioner unit doing there?" So I suspect that some property owners may want to install these things so that clumsy people like Kumar Barve don't ruin their property. Go ahead, Delegate Boyce.
and I can get the answer offline, and it's for both the panel can send me an email about this. Why doesn't HUD require AC? Or in other words, in older HABC or public housing, usually there isn't a window unit, and as I'm reading here, the tenant could have their own window unit so long as it's not an exit of a potential emergency exit. So if there's a limited amount of windows, for instance, in the home, and they put it in the window that may be an exit, it would not be allowed. I'm just curious about that, so.
You know, maybe I think we should have staff look into that. I think they're in a better position to answer that question. Delegate Stewart.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks to both Lauren and Kathy for coming, and also for your willingness to work with the sponsor. I'm sensing that maybe a kumbaya moment is in our future, and that's exciting. One thing I wanted to note, though, I guess to Kathy, when Montgomery County passed its own bill, which works well, there was an implementation window that was needed for landlords to come under compliance. I think that they were given like 2 or 3 years to comply. Kathy, is that something that you think that landlords would need in Baltimore City? And if so, and if we passed something, if we added something like that to the bill, I don't know if the sponsor would be amenable, but if we added something like that to the bill, would that make you more likely to sing Kumbaya with Delegate Wells on this?
That would certainly hit a good note. I would say that.
Okay.
Because I think that there are going to be many, probably smaller mom and pops and smaller complexes that do not have air conditioning at this time. They're going to have to gear up to do that. They may very well need to do some electrical work in those properties in order to make either window units or something along those lines compatible with their electrical system. So yes, we would also need an implementation sort of timing thing. And I agree. Thank you very much for thinking of that.
Okay, thanks.
Delegate Stewart is morphing into a moderate Barvey-style Democrat. Better make sure the Democratic Socialists of Montgomery County don't find out. Delegate Terraza.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Howard, can you explain what you mean by a window sleeve? What do you mean by that?
Sure, sure. Essentially, think of your basic brick three-story apartment complex, garden apartment building. It has a window, and then beneath it is an area of brick that is there. And what you do is you cut out some of the brick. You put in a wood or drywall kind of compartment, if you will, and then you set the window, the air conditioner into that space, and it blows. You know, it is done in such a way that the hot air from the motor is doing exhaust to the outside, but you're getting cool in the inside.
Okay, thank you. So you're not saying that you can't do it in those, the 60s and 70s houses, apartments that have sliding windows. You're just saying that you would have to also involve a sleeve with that.
Well, the sliding windows in those 60s and 70s properties are very, they're very, frankly, delicate. First of all, they generally speaking, one side they slide horizontally to begin with, and the size air conditioners that people would need, I think, for these places are not going to fit in that particular space.
Okay.
Plus the fact they do fall out easily, and secondly, to the chairman's point, as well as the fact that they have aluminum. It's made out of aluminum.
Okay.
And that doesn't really support that very well.
Okay, to clarify though, I thought what you were saying was that then a sleeve would need to be installed.
Yes,
And then they
you
could
would
be
have
put
to-
in.
Yes.
So they can be done in the 60s and 70s apartments.
Yeah, I think that's what regional management did. Certainly there may be other fixes that people are, creative thinking can do.
Okay, so I'm
but-
sorry, the only thing I was trying to clarify is that you're not suggesting it's impossible. You're saying it is possible. Because it sounded like your testimony was, there's problems, you can't do these where you have sliding windows.
I think it's certainly going to depend on the window and what you have there. I would think that there would be some alternative, but those are going to depend on what the engineering of the building is. I can't think of all the permutations, but we certainly can talk about that while we're working on this bill.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I guess so what that means is there's different accommodations that would need to be made depending on the window type, but you can do it anywhere.
Hopefully, yes.
Thank you.
Delegate Ruth. Delegate Terraza, push your button, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate. This is an important bill. So I wanted to, first of all, aren't there air conditioning units now that can just sit in the room that don't have to actually be put in the window?
I can answer that actually because I've had precisely what you're describing. They are categorized as a mobile air conditioning unit, but they do still have to be vented outside somehow.
Right, I remember our air conditioning failed in our apartment building, and the management company wheeled one of those into 2 of our rooms and just stuck a pipe, the flexible pipe that you see in a dryer, and to vent the hot air outside. So, yeah, that's probably what most of these people will do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one more question, Mr. Chair?
Sure,
So-
and that will be the last question.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about the amendment that was proposed by Mr. Scrum. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but his suggestion was that this be expanded to all renters and not just those limited groups. And given I understand your limitations and your concerns, but if this were to move forward and, in a form where what we're talking about, as low a barrier as possible, wouldn't it be simpler for landlords to just have these in all apartments than to try to figure out which units are going to have people under 3 or over 65?
I can take that question. I think that goes to part of the reason why we would like to see potentially the rent escrow statute utilized, because that has no age limitations. If you have a health or safety concern, anyone can utilize a rent escrow action. But additionally, Delegate, if you go back and read our testimony, that was one of our concerns as well. The demographics of residents are very fluid and constantly changing. And so as a practical matter, from a business operations perspective, what you would probably do is outfit every unit with AC, which again, depending on how you do that, has potential to drive up the cost.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have Crystal Hippolyte. Maybe I'm Hippolyte. Okay, Crystal Hippolyte. Is she with us? Okay. Crystal, are you with us? What's happening? Yeah, she must have stepped away. Okay. Okay, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 303. Let's go to House Bill 710, Delegate Bagnall. I understand that an aide, Rory Nolan, is presenting. Are you Rory Nolan? I know he's not.
That'd be me. Glad you noticed. I know the red hair makes it hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah.
Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. For the record, my name is Rory Nolan. I'm Delegate Bagnall's Chief of Staff. I'm here to testify on her behalf today. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about House Bill 710. House Bill 710 is a very simple bill. The bill is authorizing legislation at the request of the Anne Arundel County Executive's Administration, which adds Anne Arundel County to the list of approved counties that can set up speed monitoring systems at locations at the discretion of the county, but within reasonable parameters as established by the state. That's a mouthful, but what it means is that rather than having to return to the General Assembly for each new system requested, the county will be able to establish speed monitoring systems under their own power at these established locations. This bill is identical to previously passed legislation allowing the same authorization for Montgomery County and Prince George's County. Thanks, boss. Can you hear me now? Yes. Wonderful. You want me to start over, or are we good? Okay. We'll be here all day. So this bill is identical to previously passed legislation allowing the same authorization for Montgomery County and Prince George's County, and brings Anne Arundel County in line with those two with regards to speed camera placement practices. House Bill 710 did receive a favorable report from the Anne Arundel County delegation and ensures that Anne Arundel County is able to meet the needs of its citizens by allowing them to have a greater capacity to monitor dangerous driving habits. We respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 710. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else has signed up to testify. Questions? Okay, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Isn't it true, Mr. Nolan, that your boss last year was the best boss you ever had?
Yeah.
Actually, I do. I have a real question. You don't have to answer that one.
Yeah. And I
You
know she
mentioned
loves
that,
speed cameras, so.
you mentioned that the bill got a favorable report out of the delegation. I don't see that in the packet. Could you get that to us, please?
We can,
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question's similar. I was going to ask you what the vote of the delegation was, but I guess that's kind of the same question that Delegate Love was asking, so.
Yeah, we can
thank
provide
you.
that.
Thank you.
Pete Barron, why are you here? Are you just eye candy? What's going on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess we made a mistake. I'm representing the county exec, and I guess we did not sign up for May.
Yeah,
Okay.
that kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 710. Let's go to House Bill 835, Cecil County.
If I could bring up my panel, Mr. Chair.
Of course.
Thank you. Come on up, guys. Well, happy Friday, everyone. For the record, Delegate Kevin Hornberger on a local bill, Cecil County Delegation Bill HB 835, which is a pro-electric vehicle bill that we're looking to pass for one of our municipalities in Cecil County. Fun fact, the second oldest municipality in the state of Maryland. Yes. So they want to leapfrog in technology and be able to commute about the town limits using golf carts. We've worked with the town over the course of the last few years to get this language in the same posture as other municipalities that have passed legislation in the state. And we've also got the unanimous support of the town president, who's here with me today, as long as the vice president, our county council, our county executive, and unanimous support of our delegation. Yep. So we're hoping that we can pass and move favorable on this bill this year. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the vice president, and happy to take any questions.
And I
Thank you.
presume that's Brian Leitner.
I am not Brian Leitner.
No.
Brian Leitner is our town administrator.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, he's signed up, so if you want to speak, go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he said he did. Okay. My name's Renee. First of all, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Renee Capano. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Commissioners for the Town of Charlestown, and I'm here to testify on behalf of the Town of Charlestown on allowing golf cart usage on the state, county, and town roads within Charlestown. Charlestown is a 2 square mile town that is waterfront. We are off the beaten path. We have aging population that is wanting to use the golf carts to get around our town. We do not have any public transportation that is town-sponsored. Charlestown is a small waterfront community along the Northeast River with the town center of the National Register of Historic Places. The community boasts year-round residents and tourists who like to visit the public beaches, marinas, and restaurants. The neighborhood's narrow streets are very navigable and great for walking. In addition to walking and bicycling, golf carts have become a popular mode of transportation. Generally, our senior citizens are those who utilize the golf carts to assist them in getting around, allowing them to enjoy the outside. Responding to requests from the residents, the town commissioners researched potential of the workable golf cart ordinance after coordinating with the Cecil County Sheriff's Department, State Delegate Kevin Hornsberger, and the Maryland Municipal League. The town commissioners voted unanimously to approve the ordinance for the purpose of regulating the use of the operation of golf carts within Charlestown on October 11th, 2022. This is with the understanding that the General Assembly would need to approve the ordinance before becoming law. The ordinance is a common-sense approach to allowing golf carts of state, county, and town roads where the speed limit does not exceed 30 miles an hour. Carts will be used to follow the state law, including lighting. Hope you.
Your thought.
Okay. Including lighting and driver's license. We also are going to be coming in front of you in a later date to drop our speed limit to 15 miles an hour within our town limits.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. That ends the public hearing on
Everyone have
House
a nice
Bill
weekend.
835. Yeah, have a nice weekend yourself. House Bill 1028, Delegate Amprey. Welcome back.
I'm gonna get an assigned seat back here, so I, get a
Well,
nameplate
for
up
a
here.
small fee, we can put your name on the seat.
Good to see everyone here on this Friday. For the record, Delegate Marlon Amper here in support of House Bill 1028, Department of State Police training facilities with firearm range location. It's good to be amongst you all today. This bill is a bit of a personal bill. So I care deeply about prison reform in this state, having been the only man in my household who's never been to prison. And when I was a child, I had to visit my brother and my father who were incarcerated at the same time. So I've dealt with the issues of incarceration. Also in my district, the unfortunate reality is significant amount portion of my district composes many of those who are currently incarcerated at the state level. So it's a near and dear issue to me. Because of that, I was able to join the Black Caucus when we visited the Jessup facility a couple years back. And during that visit, we were able to walk the campus. We were able to meet with some of those who were incarcerated and learn about some of the excellent programming that they have there and ways they could improve it. But while walking around the campus, literally, when you're at these facilities, they have campuses, they have dormitories, and then they have the actual facilities. When I was walking around the campus, I could hear rapid gunfire throughout my walk. And I asked, what is that noise? And I found out that they literally have the firing ranges where they practice for the correctional facilities and for state police next door to where our incarcerated individuals are living, where they can hear gunfire at any point all day during the day. And I found out it wasn't just at Jessup. So there are currently 5 correctional institutions in Maryland that are within earshot of training facilities with firearms. These include Eastern Correctional Institution, North Branch Correctional Institution, Roxbury Correctional Institution, Dorsey Run Correctional Facility, and Central Maryland Correctional Facility. Because of the close proximity between these correctional facilities and firearm ranges, these inmates, many of who have been previously experienced gun violence and being re-traumatized by the frequent sound of gunfire, this noise exposure not only increases their risk for negative mental and physical health outcomes, but also interferes with the rehabilitation process in order to protect individuals from the trauma of hearing gunshots and reduce the risk of triggering those who have been victim of gun violence. Firearm ranges should not be located within earshot of these institutions. House Bill 1028 seeks to address this issue by prohibiting the Department of State Police from locating training facilities with a firearm range near hospitals, correctional facilities, juvenile facilities, and educational facilities, including daycare centers, public playgrounds, schools, and colleges. House Bill 1028 also requires the department to submit an annual report to the Governor and Maryland General Assembly beginning in 2023, which would include information on the number of department-owned or used training facilities with firearm ranges near their facilities. The report would also detail the costs associated with relocating or replacing any of these identified training facilities, trauma and related outcomes resulting from the proximity of firearm ranges, gunshot decibel distant thresholds for physical and mental health safety, and the feasibility of temporarily relocating firearm ranges to other locations. Additionally, there's an amendment for this bill that was submitted which will shift the responsibility of the Department of State Police to the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. Additionally, the amendment would limit the scope of the bill to only apply to outdoor firearm ranges. Lastly, the amendment would mandate the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services to notify hospitals, educational facilities, correctional facilities, and juvenile facilities located within earshot of a firearm range at least 24 hours before conducting the firearm training. This notification requirement seeks to supply these facilities with adequate time to protect and prepare individuals who may be negatively impacted by the sound of gunshots. And I have more I could read, but briefly just want to say, if we really care about rehabilitating those who are incarcerated, if we want to reduce the recidivism that we have here in this state, we have some of the highest recidivism rates in comparison to other states that are next to us. If we want to be the state that actually, does the work about leaving no one behind, we have to think about everyone.
Okay.
And I hope to gain a favorable report on House Bill 1028.
I'll be blunt with you. I requested that this bill be in the Judiciary Committee, and for some reason didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I guess it'll go to the Land Use Subcommittee. So anyway, first question goes to Delegate Ciliberti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How long have these ranges been in operation?
They've been in operation for years. I don't know I thought we had some informational testimony. I think someone wasn't able to join us due to a family emergency. But my understanding is that they've been in operation for years, possibly decades.
And do you have any record of any injuries as a result
So
of these
my team was not able to find any actual physical injuries. Unfortunately, we know that there's trauma associated with gunfire, especially those who come from communities where they were that are full of violence. So while there might not be any physically documented injuries that I know of, I know for a fact that if we were to enact this bill and do some research, we would find that there's definitely been some mental trauma definitely associated with it.
Yeah, but some of these folks are used to gunfire, are they not? And
I'll say this. No one should get used to gunfire unless you are literally signing up to go fight for your country, right? There's no right, and no one should be in a position where we are spending thousands of dollars a year to have people incarcerated. We spend, I think the number is $20,000-$30,000 a year for an individual to be incarcerated for a year. Why would we not make sure that investment ensures that when they leave, they're fully healed and rehabilitated so that when they go back to their community, they don't recommit? So if we're putting them in positions where they're going to hear gunfire all the time and be re-traumatized, we're actually making our communities less safe, right? So if we want to really make our communities more safe, let's lower recidivism. Let's think about holistically ensuring that individuals who are incarcerated.
Okay, I'm not the chairman of the
sorry.
Judiciary Committee, so I'm going to go to the next question, and we are not going to prolong this. Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Delegate Amprey, for what I think is a really great bill and for the things you just said. My quick question is, was the firing range in Howard County, do you know? Like, I'm trying to figure out where the firing range there was, since I represent that part of Howard County, but not Anne Arundel
I
County.
believe it was in Howard County.
Okay.
I'm not.
Maybe I'll get with you offline to
Yeah,
figure out
we can talk about it
exactly the
offline.
location, but I think this is really important. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate, thank you for the bill. I noticed in the original version, it mentioned, looking at the firing range, near. I think the wording was just near the facility. And then the amendment kind of clarifies that it's close enough that you can hear the shots. I was reading the state police's informational testimony, and they said that they kind of used half a mile as a gauge. Are you looking for the committee or subcommittee here to kind of assign an actual distance? Because I feel like it's going to be tough otherwise.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there needs to be, I mean, I can only, again, this bill comes because of literally personal experience. Like, I could hear the gunfire.
Right.
And like, you shouldn't hear the gunfire. And then talking with those who were incarcerated, they said, yeah, this is the norm, and that shouldn't be the norm. So whatever we can do to put a distance where the gunfire cannot be heard, and whatever we can do to protect those while they're currently incarcerated, so they can avoid hearing it when they because the bill would also require for there to be times posted when they're actually going to be using the range, so that people can be prepared to put on earmuffs or earplugs. So, but yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for bringing this bill. So I didn't catch this, but is one of your amendments to strike the mandated appropriation for a new facility, or is that still in?
So we've talked with the I'm trying to think. So we've talked to state police. We've talked to the correctional facilities. The issue is they've got to be somewhere, and the cost associated with it. Yeah. You got to find the land. You got to put it somewhere.
The fiscal note says that it's $20 million.
It said it could be.
Yeah.
They said it could be. So it says 20 million, but it sounds like it was a number they kind of they might have just thrown out there, because right after it says that, it said we're not really sure what this could be, right? So I think there's ways and avenues we can explore on how we can better make sure that our state police and those at the correctional facilities are trained to use firearms appropriately. And maybe that's spending money on renting out private facilities. I don't know what it looks like, but I just know that the incarcerated and there's also one near a mental facility. So that I just feel like it's a hazard, and we should really move towards rethinking how we have one of the higher citizen rates in the nation, and this doesn't help. I know this isn't helping it.
I failed to notice that Nicole Hanson-Mundell is signed up to testify. Nicole, are you here? Apparently not. Okay. Okay. Well, no further questions. That ends the public hearing on House Bill 1028. Have a great weekend.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's go to House Bill 1084. Delegate Adams. Oh, what do you know? Natural resources oysters sounds like a subject matter of this committee.
Okay.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to
Delegate
explain.
Adams.
Thank you for having my panel come with me. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, committee members, for the record, Delegate Chris Adams, here to present a very important bill for our commercial watermen titled Natural Resources, Oyster Inspection and Severance Taxes Increase. So there is a tax on every bushel of oysters that are sold in the state. It's $1 per bushel. For every bushel that goes out of the state, an additional 30 cents per bushel tax is levied. The bill raises the tax from $1 a bushel to $2 a bushel for every bushel sold, and raises the tax for the bushels that go out of the state from 30 cents to $1. You'll ask the question, well, why are we raising the taxes? What are we going to do with the money? But with my subject matter,
I was wondering who you were and what you did with Delegate Adams.
well, if you'll stop the clock, we can have that conversation. This gives Delegate Stewart a chance to touche ole. We had a bill yesterday, so we'll see how this goes. The bill takes this money and likely will be paid by the watermen because they're asking for this money. It helps them raise revenue so they can buy the shell back for replenishment projects. So as a fifth-generation Eastern Shoreman, if I care about my commercial watermen, if I care about the oyster fishery, and if I want there to be an industry that represents me and my heritage, then I want to see that our commercial watermen are able to sustain with their practices that duty to sustain their industry. Recognize that the commercial watermen compete with scarce dollars to pay for oyster shell with other industries, and some of which are equally important, which is aquaculture. And so in this bill, not only do we have a policy discussion that we're asking the committee to accept, but we're asking you to defend and support our commercial watermen who want to pay this tax, and we can't do this tax increase any other way. I could continue further, but I have one of my favorite watermen sitting next to me that can speak in own terms why this bill's here and, and why we're asking for your passage.
Well, Mr. Herman Harrison, I assume, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair and other delegates. My name's Jeff Harrison. I am the president of Talbot Waterman Association, but I'm also the president of the Talbot County Oyster Shell Committee. I'm the chair. We use these funds, we've requested these funds for the past 5 years, basically because the price of shell has continued to go up. 5 years ago, it was around $3.50 a bushel. Another $1.50 to deliver it made it $5. This year, it's $8.50 to have it delivered. We're actually in the process of buying some shell now. That 30,000 bushel of shell, which we've been fortunate enough to get, is going to cost us over $250,000. As you said, this tax will probably be imposed upon us. It's been put in for 5 years. It did not go anywhere, basically because we had a Republican governor. I'd never say that, I wanted a Democratic government, but we finally have a chance to get some more money. And so it's really good to be able to increase that pot. Who am I? Well, first off, it's really good to be here to be talking about an oyster bill where no one's actually against it. That's really good. I know going forward we probably won't have that. But this money will be well spent. The Seed and Shell Repletion Program, which is where the funds will go in, is a program that started in 1960, has run almost consistently for the last 64 years. It really is the biggest oyster restoration project ever known to mankind. And I don't know the numbers of how many oyster shells have been put over. But we're very fortunate now that we have very good spat sets, and so it's very important that we put these shells overboard, and so we need those funds, and those funds will be used to do just that. So I'm asking for a favorable vote on this bill.
Mr. Chairman, I would add that the
You're becoming my favorite tax and spend Republican.
And you're becoming one of my favorite chairmen if we could pass this bill.
Okay, we also have Robert T. Brown signed up virtually. Robert T., are you out there? Is he out there? He's not there. Okay, we'll go to questions. Delegate Stewart.
Mr. Chairman, I have to say, this bill angers me to no end. I've got my soapbox, Delegate Adams.
Yes.
When I go back home to my district, they're always asking me about all these bills that people put down in Annapolis, increasing taxes, socialist takeover, and I always tell them I try to hold the line and stop them. So what, Delegate Adams, what am I possibly going to do if I vote to vote in favor of this bill? What am I going to tell all of my angry constituents who are always on me about the socialistic takeover of Annapolis?
So Delegate Stewart.
And also, a quick follow-up, how dare you?
So Delegate Stewart, I think you're great, and I appreciate your tenor on this one. You know, we passed out of the House floor today the spam bill. That was your bill, and if I understand it correctly, that was a Ron DeSantis key piece of legislation from Florida. And I will tell you that I looked past the sponsor of the bill and supported that bill on the House floor today, and I'm going to ask you to do the same for me. For all the right reasons.
Well,
Thank you.
You know, I love you as well, and I appreciate that answer. And also, even though I hope he's never our next president, sometimes Governor DeSantis does have some good ideas.
The next question for Comrade Adams will come from Delegate Boyce.
Remember this when you go back.
I will. Should have been Sergeant Boyce. Thank you, Delegate Adams, for bringing this bill. This has been a discussion for the last couple of years, so I'm glad that we're finally agreeing on it. I wanted to ask, one, are you okay with DNR's amendments?
So as the sponsor of the bill, I have asked the industry, and we believe that we are in agreement with the DNR
They make sense,
amendments.
it's including where the money's going to go?
Yeah.
Okay. The next question I wanted to ask, I was just curious that the 30 cents goes to $1 and not 60 cents. How did you guys come up with, I mean, other than that, it's been a decade since you increased the cost, but the out-of-state cost?
Well, I think that the answer to that is Jeff's to bring, but let me just say, my understanding is that this tax has not been increased since the late 70s, and I know DNR says 1991, and just the time value of money
Sure.
would say that this increase is modest and probably responsive to a real dollar amount they're trying to get to be competitive in the marketplace to, again, replenish the oyster not sanctuaries, but their seed and shell program.
Right. How much is a bushel of oysters at this point?
Right now, they're getting $40 off the boat, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I did want to say first that Robert T. was supposed to be on today, but his wife had a medical emergency, and he was unable to be on. He was going to try to do it by phone, but I know his wife had a medical emergency. But I just want to say on behalf of the Maryland Waterman Association, they were in favor of the bill. And I hope she's okay, too. So I guess, Jeff, these are a couple questions I wanted to say. I mean, I remember in the 70s when I was in the business, when I was buying oysters, in the early 70s, it was $1 bushel severance tax then, right?
Yeah, and we were getting like $6 a bushel for the oysters.
They were $5. I was paying $4 to $5 a bushel to the boat, but all the way back, and it goes. They say 60s. Do you know when it started? I couldn't find it exactly.
Yeah, not really, but I did talk to Chris Judy, and he said it was in the 70s, so
Right.
that the price was set.
So I know from personal experience it was $1 a bushel severance tax in the 70s.
Yeah, that's right,
And here we are now, 2023, where back then we paying $4 to $5 a bushel, and now we're paying $40 to $50.
Yep.
And the price of shell, as you indicated, I think that's important for everybody to know, is that this is a very competitive business to try and buy the shell. And isn't that so?
Yes, last year even was the first time that we didn't get the shell that we needed. We've been trying to buy, Talbot County in particular, 30,000 bushel shells a year, and last year, we only got 18,000 bushels. So, you know, we do have a little bit more money this year because we didn't spend all our money last year, but this will definitely help. It could increase our funds by probably 25%, so.
But one of the reasons that the severance tax, the export tax, the request was from 30 to $1 was because the majority of those oysters being bought now are not staying in state to be shucked. They're going out of state to Virginia to be shucked. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. All of the shells that we bought within the last probably 10 years, or most of the shells, come from out of state. That's why we tried to address that last year with Senate Bill 830 to try to get some more oyster houses in the state. And I'm happy to say there are, I think, 3 new oyster houses on the Eastern Shore. So we're working on the problem, but right now we still have to deal with the out of state. And like I said, it's $8.50 a bushel to get them delivered this year.
Yeah. So even though I know it's hard to believe, Mr. Chairman, that some of my folks would want to have a tax increase, I believe that it's really justified in the industry because it's invested back into not only the oyster industry, but also cleaning the bay as well. Wouldn't you say that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll be shopping for a floor leader, if this bill comes forward, you know how to get up with me.
Oh, okay, well, all I have to say at this point is, do svidaniya. And sorry for being so heavy-handed there. This is a great bill.
Thank you.
Okay. How often do you get to play the Soviet national anthem these days? Okay. Okay. We're going to move now to House Bill 1109, Prince George's County Delegation, and presenting is Maya Fontheim. Is that you're the, did I pronounce your name correctly?
It's Fontheim, but it's
Fontheim.
spelled very strange. So
Close, okay, well, as I like to tell people, when your middle name is Prabhakar, you like to get these things right. You have 4 minutes. Welcome to the committee.
Is that starting now? Sounds good. Chair Barve, Vice Chair Stein, and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of HB 1109 or PG 407-23 to help allow Prince George's County to establish business improvement districts, particularly around the county's Blue Line corridor. This will allow businesses in the corridor to supplement state and county services to make desired improvements such as beautification and infrastructure improvements by consolidating funds through a tax on the district's businesses. These districts established by the county are a means for businesses to come together and pool resources that they can invest into their community. Creating business improvement districts is an added resource to incentivize businesses to locate in the Blue Line corridor. We as a state made a historic investment in this neglected area of the county with a $400 million bond initiative. But we need to continue to add incentives to prevent enterprise, to boost the area, and to attract businesses to locate in the corridor. Cities such as Bethesda serve as examples of how business improvement districts can create walkable retail, create environments for success of businesses, and generally economic growth. We want to replicate this in Prince George's County and give the county an extra tool in its toolkit to incentivize businesses in the areas to locate where they'll be most beneficial to the community. Currently, the state has its own version of business improvement districts. However, the state's law requires 80% of businesses in an area to vote in favor of forming such a business improvement district. Having such a large threshold for businesses opting in has been prohibitive of business improvement districts forming elsewhere in the state. For that reason, the county-specific legislation is necessary. If approved, this legislation would allow Prince George's County to begin the process of creating a business improvement district and require the approval of a simple majority, so 50% plus, in an area to vote in favor of a business improvement district to form it. There is an amendment for this bill that was not taken up by the delegation. We are working with the Prince George's County Delegation Chair to get a letter of support for the bill with the amendment included. The amendment was created based on advice from DLS and the Attorney General's office that allowing municipalities, not the county itself, to create business improvement districts at this lower 51% voting in favor rate, not the 80%, was unconstitutional. Business improvement districts are a means for local enterprises to pool their resources together and supplement county, state resources, and generally create a better environment for businesses to thrive. This bill would incentivize businesses to locate in communities that really need that kind of private business support, like the Blue Line Corridor. For these reasons, I urge a favorable report.
All right, we also have signed up in favor Jim Chandler and Angie Rogers.
Angie Rogers has been held up in a meeting, so I'm here to represent on her behalf.
Okay, well, let's start with Jim Chandler. Sir, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barbe, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jim Chandler. I serve as Assistant City Administrator and Director of Economic Development with the City of Hyattsville. I'm here to testify in support of HB 1109, a bill intended to enable the creation of business improvement districts in Prince George's County. The bill is intended to align the regulations and requirements of the formation of a bid with that of neighboring Montgomery County. Bids that you may be familiar with include Downtown Baltimore, Capitol Hill bid, NOMA bid, and Silver Spring bid. Bids are public-private organizations that supplement public services within a defined geographical boundary. Bids assess property owners in the district to create collective economic benefits for its members that cannot be achieved on an individual basis. Bids will enable Prince George's County communities to offer supplemental services, including public safety, branding, enhanced cleaning and beautification, legislative advocacy, placemaking, event programming, and activation. Over the past 2 years, the city has been assessing feasibility and creation of a business improvement district in and around Hyattsville Crossing Metro Station. Based on our extensive dialogue with our stakeholders, we're confident that this legislation enables businesses, property owners, local government, and even residential property owners, should they choose to participate in the vision. Just a side note, the city is supportive of the proposed amendment and recognizes the significance of the state law. We do thank you for your consideration and respectfully ask for your favorable support of HB 1109. Thank you.
Okay, and now let's hear from the person who is not Angie Rogers.
Yes, I'm Patrick Gallagher. I work for the Prince George's County Executive's Intergovernmental Affairs team. Again, just to reiterate what everyone else has said, we support this legislation. It is structured very closely after 2017 legislation passed for Montgomery County, which allowed them to establish bids at the 51% support level, which is what allowed the establishment of the Silver Spring bid. And to further note, for the amendment that is being offered, it is response to an Attorney General's opinion written on the 2017 bill, and we have talked with the Attorney General's office, and they have confirmed that through this legislation, the county would be able to establish bids for a municipality. The municipality itself just could not, because that is where the constitutional issue resides.
Okay, questions by the way, this is a bill that has no opposition. Questions? Delegate Terrazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in terms of the bid, that would create an area which is basically like a special taxing district. Is that sort of how that works? Okay, and then would residents and businesses be required to pay it, or just the businesses?
Just the businesses.
Just the businesses within the bid?
Yeah. So it's like a tax that allows them to pool their money for beautification.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Same to you.
That ends the public hearing on House Bill 1109. Let's go to House Bill 1127, Harford County Advisory Plumbing Board. Delegate Riley. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, Chairman Barbe, Vice Chair Stein, and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. For the record, I am Delegate Teresa Riley, the Harford County Delegation Chair, and representing District 35A, Cecil, and Harford Counties, introducing HB 1127, Harford County Advisory Plumbing Board. This bill is at the request of our Harford County Administration. It authorizes the governing body to act and to enact a local law providing for the membership and the terms of office for the Advisory Plumbing Board. I respectfully ask for a favorable report on this delegation bill, and I have Mr. Richard Truitt, which is the Director of Inspections, License, and Permits, here to actually testify on the details of the changes. Thank you.
You're a friend. He was not signed up, but go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I thought that was taken care of. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Environmental and Transportation Committee. As Delegate Riley said, my name is Rich Truitt, and I'm the Director of Inspections, License Permits for Harford County. I'd like to thank the committee, along with Delegate Riley and the Harford County delegation, for allowing me the time today to speak. The changes proposed by HB 1127 tend to align the enabling legislation currently within state law with the provisions found within Section 16-7 of the county law as it pertains to the formation and the terms of the Harford County Plumbing Board. The language before you for your consideration removes some outdated language by modifying the Section 13-16C4II of the local governance article to provide for local authority to establish the membership and terms of the board locally. I would respectfully request your favorable report and support of the bill, and I am also here willing to address any additional questions that you may have. Additionally, I would like to also note that you will find a letter of support from County Executive Castley, which was dated March 10th of 2023 in your packet for support of the bill as well. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Delegate Healy.
Yeah, I just, thank you so much, Delegate, for bringing the bill. I just wanted to ask, because I'm chair of the subcommittee, I wanted to make sure that this is, the fiscal note says that this is already current practice in Harford County. So if you're already doing this, why do you need the bill?
Well, there is a discrepancy between the state law and how that plumbing board should be comprised. Currently, the state law requires a physician, a member of a citizen that is to help draft and support the bill, and then also a master plumber. So it is not in line with county law, and we wanted to get that in line.
Is this different from other counties?
Yes, there is. The section right before it is Frederick County, and we modeled the language that our current county law is somewhat modeled after that language, which establishes the health officer or their designee, 3 master plumbers, and then myself as the director of the department responsible for enforcement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, let's go to House Bill 1177, Calvert County. Big Todd Morgan.
Big Todd was everybody moving, okay?
And you also have Bud Hance is testifying virtually after you, so okay.
Thank you. Chairman Barbe, members of the esteemed Environmental Transportation Committee wants to go home this afternoon. I will speed it up. I have first to present to you today House Bill 1177. This is a local preference bill that's been supported by the commissioners of Calvert County and by the delegation. The bill alters the ability of the county commissioners of Calvert County to have more say in how contracts are awarded. Currently, the current commissioners award projects to contractors who submit the lowest bid for the project. This bill will allow county commissioners to enact an ordinance which gives them a leg up to local businesses who may not be able to compete with the prices offered by larger corporations. The bill has a full support, as I said, of the Calvert County Commissioners, and as I noted in the letter of support, the bill gives the taxpayers of Calvert County a better say in how their money is spent in support of the local economy. It is therefore asked for a favorable report on House Bill 1177.
All right, Buddy Hance, welcome to the committee. Always good to hear from you. You've got 2 minutes.
Chairman Barbe, Vice Chair, it's a pleasure to be with you all today, and I'm here today to ask for your support for House Bill 1177, so that we can give our local businesses some preference when we issue contracts. As I mentioned to Chairman Barvey when we spoke earlier, what got me started on this was when I first got elected, we awarded a contract for a firehouse for $11 million, and our local contractor lost that bid by $19,000. So our goal here is to work with the business community, determine the number that works best for all of us, and try to help support our local businesses in this small, semi-rural community that we have. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Delegate Morgan or Buddy Hance? Well, apparently you did a brilliant job of explaining yourself because there are no questions. Have a wonderful weekend, both of you.
I'm not done.
Thank you.
You're not, that's right, he's not done.
You're just missing the opportunity of me. So,
Don't either.
No, that's it, there are no questions.
We have another bill coming up, I think, so.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, you do. What do you know? 1178.
I want to make myself comfortable up here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, again. This afternoon, I'm going to present to you for a second bill, which is House Bill 1178, Calvert County Length of Service Award Program. This bill supports the volunteer first responders of Calvert County by allowing the county commissioners to vote to increase the benefits award to the volunteers to match cost of living increases given to county employees. The bill also mandates increased funding for support of our volunteers' family in the event of death in the line of duty. Currently, volunteer fire medical benefits in Calvert County are set at a fixed amount. They do not correspond to the inflation and increased cost of living which we are facing in today's economy. The bill has the full support of the Calvert County Commissioners, the delegation, and I ask respectfully for your vote of support so we can ensure that these brave volunteers receive the support that they deserve.
Okay, Buddy, what say you?
So once again, just want to ask for the committee support for House Bill 1178. We have a wonderful volunteer service in Calvert County for fire, rescue, EMS, and just trying to reward those individuals. As you all know, it's getting harder and harder to get people to volunteer. So we're just trying to increase benefits to encourage more volunteerism.
Terrific. Any questions for either one of the two of these guys? Seeing none. Now, thank you, Buddy, and have a great weekend. Or unless you're going to be here for the next bill, I don't know.
Yes, he is.
Oh, he is. In that case, don't have a great weekend yet.
So I'm going to defer presentation of this to Delegate Fisher's Chief of Staff.
Okay, sounds good. Chris Hopkins. Welcome to the committee. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman Barvey and esteemed members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. For the record, my name is Chris Hopkins. I'm here on behalf of Delegate Mark Fisher to present this Calvert County Delegation Bill, HB 1183. This emergency bill authorizes the Calvert County Commissioners to remove the Calvert County Treasurer from office if the Treasurer is not present in the Treasurer's office for the transaction of business in accordance with the public local laws of Calvert County for at least 8 months during calendar year, and the treasurer fails to provide the county commissioners with a certificate of sale within 1 week after the county tax sale in accordance with the tax property article for each property offered for sale at the tax sale for which there was no private purchaser. The bill specifies that actions taken or not taken by the treasurer within 1 year before the effective date of the bill may provide a basis for the county commissioners to remove the treasurer from office after the effective date of the bill. The bill has the support of the Calvert County delegation and Calvert County commissioners, and we would request a favorable report.
Okay, Buddy, any comments?
Just once again, asking the committee for a favorable report for this legislation. So we're just trying to make sure that our elected official is upholding their responsibilities.
Okay, so I guess that means that they don't the treasurer is elected?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, that would explain. So right now, the only way to get rid of him would be some sort of impeachment action, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, now you can have a nice weekend. How about that?
Thank you. You too, sir. You have a wonderful weekend.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes,
All right, take care. Let's go to House Bill 1179, Delegate Forbes. And you've got a bunch of people testifying. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Barve. Thank you, Vice Chair Stein, members of Environment and Transportation. For the record, I'm Delegate Kathy Forbes, and I'm here presenting testimony in support of HB 1179. This is a bill for the University System of Maryland and its affiliated foundation, and it's an ethics bill. This bill is necessary to allow the University System of Maryland and their affiliated foundations and their employees to accept and administer certain grants. Without this legislation, the USM has determined that allowing USM employees who work for foundations to accept grants may put them at risk of being in violation of our ethics laws. This policy will allow them to accept certain grants primarily to benefit faculty research. These grants are only accepted by foundations when the university cannot accept them, usually because the grant has to go to a 501c3 or because of certain other conditions that the university system cannot meet. There are very clear rules when they're accepting these grants, and usually they benefit younger faculty who have trouble getting funding for their research. This legislation will allow the foundation to accept the grants while ensuring that the foundation employees are protected and in compliance with our ethics laws. Most importantly, we want to ensure that every legitimate revenue source is available to our faculty across the system for research. I'm happy to answer questions. I have a great panel here that can explain the reason for the bill, and I thank you and ask for a favorable report.
Well, thank you. Who would like to speak first?
I'm happy to. Good afternoon, Chair Barve, Vice Chair Stein, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in House Bill 1179. I'm Carolyn Skolnick, Associate Vice Chancellor at the USM for Policy and Human Resources. This bill would amend the section of the education article that addresses affiliated foundations at the university system to clarify that, under certain circumstances, university employees may, in accordance with the Maryland Public Ethics Law, serve as directors, officials, or employees of an affiliated foundation that is organized to accept research grants for the benefit of the institution. Maryland law currently permits university officials or employees to serve in these roles if the affiliated foundation is organized to foster fundraising and provide related services. In that case, they do not have to worry about running afoul of the Maryland Public Ethics Law. Without that legal protection, the ethics law would prohibit that service as a conflict of interest. House Bill 1179 would clarify current law by unequivocally extending that provision to foundations that are organized to accept research grants for the benefit of the institution if, number one, the foundation is a 501c3 entity, and two, the university has determined that it cannot directly accept the research grant because of conditions required by the grantor. Again, without this legal clarification, there's a concern that foundations that currently accept research grants would need to cease doing so to the detriment of the universities. There are currently 9 foundations that have a primary mission of accepting funds to benefit their affiliated campuses, and there are an additional 7 that support particular units or functions such as athletics or specific schools. They support a variety of activities related to fundraising. 8 campuses, 8 USM campuses currently report benefiting from the ability to use an affiliated foundation to accept certain grants. And the value of those grants can range from $3 million to nearly $12 million on an annual basis. So for this reason, we urge you to provide a favorable report for this bill. Thank you very much.
Okay, who'd like to go next? Jim?
I would like to. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I'll be very brief. You've heard the main motivation for this bill. I'm Jim Hughes, Senior Vice President at University of Maryland, Baltimore, and interim president of the UMB Foundation. So just to put in context the impact on UMB, we have been accepting these types of grants through our foundation for some time now. In the last 3 years, we've accepted 120 grants for about $7.5 million. And just to give you an example of some of those projects, we are receiving funding from foundations to develop new treatments for depression, looking at ways to treat drug addiction. We are also working on a project to stop cancer cells from metastasizing. We are also looking to stimulate the immune system to attack cancer cells. And then very recently, we're working on an already approved drug to treat diabetes that we think we can reformat to treat severe pain, and it would be a non-addictive, safe way of treating pain. So these are just 4 projects out of 100 projects that we've done in the last 3 years. And when you look at those projects, most importantly, it's the research, but this funding helps to support salaries of faculty and staff at UMB, and they're critical educational opportunities for our students. So on behalf of UMB and the other institutions with USM, would greatly appreciate your support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Marianne Horgan.
Thank you for having me, Chair. My name is Marianne Horgan. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Advancement at the University System of Maryland. And I'm really here primarily to answer quite technical questions about this, but to add to Jim's remarks, I want to give you just a small list of some of the grants that other campuses are accepting right now that benefit our community. We have support for law clinics. We have a number of community engagement programs, elections training, COVID-19 projects, a number of environmental grants like sustainable shorelines and research on microplastics, and as well as a number of sustainable infrastructure projects. So I also hope that you'll support this bill.
The bill seems fine to me, but I have one question. Are you not able to receive grants from for-profit? Like if General Motors or Ford wanted to give you money, are you not able to accept that?
Yes, we, talking specifically from UMB, we receive about 400 grants a year from for-profit corporations.
Oh, okay.
And it totals about $60 million, so it's a big part of what we do, about 10%.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. All
Yeah.
right. Any other questions? Well, I don't see any, so have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1179. Let's now turn to the last bill of the afternoon. Last but not least, Delegate Will Wyville.
Thank you.
Yeah. Will, always good to see you.
Yes, guys, you're five. Thank you, Chairman Barve, Vice Chair Stein, and honorable members for the most part on ENT. I am pleased to present House Bill 1194, Town of Sharpsburg, Parking of Vehicle Restrictions. If you're not familiar with the town of Sharpsburg, it's a small town in Washington County, first laid out in 1763 by Joseph Chaplin as the first town in Washington County, and no delegate homes or no ground rents there. The town was devastated on September 17, 1862, as residents witnessed the bloodiest single day of the Civil War, as 23,110 soldiers were left dead, missing, or wounded during the Battle of Antietam. The town leaders over the years have done an impressive job in maintaining the town in much the same presence as it existed in the 1800s. House Bill 1194 prohibits parking of E, F, G, H, and P vehicles in the town limits. They're generally tractors, trailers, and school and passenger buses. The parking of these vehicles in these classes is allowed if it relates to the immediate use being made of the vehicle. The town does not operate its own police force, and the bill is necessary to allow for enforcement by county and state police departments. I do ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1194. I thank you in advance for your consideration of the bill, and Mr. Chairman, I believe the mayor of Sharpsburg, Russ Weaver, is visiting us via Zoom. So.
Signed up Russ Weaver and Jacob Martz. So Russ, why don't we take you first, Mr. Mayor? Is he there? Okay. And he's the mayor?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. And now we can see you. Great.
Now we can see you. Zoom's a little strange to me sometimes. Thank you, Chairman Barve, for entertaining this this legislation. As Delegate Wyville, and I'd like to thank Delegate Wyville and Delegate Valentine for sponsoring this. Sharpsburg is a small town without a police force. Recently, we've had a number of cases where people have parked tractor and trailers in the town of Sharpsburg, and then maybe their spouse picks them up and they leave. And we have two major routes, Route 34 and Route 65 go through Sharpsburg, but our streets are very narrow and not really adequate for parking large vehicles, plus people who are, object for them being in front of their houses. People usually are picked up by a spouse, taken home to an HOV where the HOA requirements won't allow these vehicles. Since we're small, about 600 people, we don't have our own police force. We have a good working relationship with the county sheriff's office, but they're not able to implement these no parking requirements unless they're in the Maryland Transportation Code. So that's why we're here. We're asking that they get added so that the local sheriff's department can enforce the other requirements. The second thing I'll say is it's fully supported by the town council. We presented it to a council meeting and they have voted for it unanimously, and we have quite a bit of support from the public. So with that, I'll take questions.
Okay, thank you very, very much. We also have Jacob Martz signed up. Jacob, are you there? Oh, there he is.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. Welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barve and Vice Chair Stein and members of the committee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Jacob Martz, and I'm the Vice Mayor here in Sharpsburg, and I just wanted to speak in support of the bill you have before you, HB 1194. And just to echo some of what's already been said and to provide a brief perspective of what we have going on here. As everybody has said, Sharpsburg is very small. We're one of the smallest municipalities in the state. We have fewer than 700 residents here, and our town has remained pretty much the same size since it was founded in 1763. We basically consist of 4 streets going one way and 4 streets going the other way. We're not even large enough to have a traffic light in our town, but what we do have in our small town are extremely narrow streets. And these streets, as the mayor said, cannot accommodate parked vehicles over a certain size. And recently, we have been experiencing increased instances of these vehicles parking along our streets. And what this does is has the effect of inhibiting traffic flow and hindering visibility, which creates a risk that endangers pedestrians and property alike. And this is an important factor, being such a small town like ours that attracts tourism, which means that we typically have a large number of pedestrians throughout the year. As Delegate Wyville and the mayor also said, another consequence of living in such a small town is that we have no police force of our own. So passage of this bill will grant the appropriate authority to our county sheriff to enforce these parking prohibitions that we implement, which will give us a means by which we can regulate these imposing vehicles that impede the local roadways. And that'll generally result in safer thoroughfares for the efficient passage of vehicles and promote a safer environment for pedestrians. And so in short, I mean, pretty simple and straightforward, the bill will give our town government the authority and ability to enact the regulations that we see fit to effectively forestall the dangers and inconveniences created by the types of large vehicles parking in our town. So I would again respectfully request a favorable vote on HB 1194. And I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Will or any of the witnesses here? Yes, Delegate Siliberti. Uh-oh.
Yes, Delegate Wyville, you are a sponsor of this bill, is that a fact?
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Barry. Calm down. Jeez. Is it not a fact that you are a sponsor of this bill, good delegate?
That is correct. Delegate, would you like to move favorable?
Not yet. Would you not suggest that the sponsor problem is a big problem?
The feeling is mutual, Delegate. Thank you.
That's not nice.
You guys
Okay.
have too much fun.
Mr. Mayor, Jacob Martz, have a wonderful weekend.
Same to you.
Thank you.
That
You as
ends,
well.
that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1194. Will have a great weekend. And that ends the public hearing. And how much time do you need to set up? Okay, so we'll adjourn and we'll be back in 5 minutes.